Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this mastery session. I think we're on our fourth session now, so we're really getting through them. Kelly, welcome. Thank you so much for making the time to join. I know how incredibly busy you are. I think we were talking about this maybe 3 months ago or something ridiculous. So, yeah, I'm glad it's
And then you
finally.
tried to move it forward a few weeks, and I'm like, I literally have got
Yeah,
no
I
space.
can't.
I'm
Just
so
got no
happy.
space. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So it's lovely to have you here.
great to be
These are some of our crew. They're inside the Founders Sanctuary. This will be available on replay as well. So we're recording this for anyone who is not able to watch it live. But before we dive into Kelly and her spot that she's doing today, hi Charlie. We just want to get a little bit of a sense of who Kelly is if you haven't met her before, and a bit of her background because she has a very interesting background. Kelly, I think you've been in Dubai longer than I have. 20 years,
Yeah,
right?
I really feel part of the furniture now. No, it's coming up for 23 years. But I
Wow,
want to
that's
tell
10 years
people
longer than me.
that I just went to school here, but sadly that is not going to work for very much longer either. Um, but yeah, I love it. And there's been so many times where I've thought, do you know what? Maybe my time's up. And it never has been. I think I've got to that point and maybe spent a few weeks somewhere else and going, nah, I think I'll go back to Dubai. But I love the energy. I love the environment. I love the the potential of reinvention. And I think that's the whole thing
Mm,
about personal brand is that understanding you're always going to be reinventing, and it's not a negative thing, it's a positive thing. And how do you keep building on your experiences, keep still skill stacking, that you become this person that's got so much value that people basically want to spend a lot of money to work with you.
yeah, I love that. That's a great summary. So tell us a little bit about your early days, I suppose, and how you got started for those who don't know your background and history.
So I originally started sort of 20 years ago in business. I came to the Middle East as a crew with Emirates. It was a fantastic opportunity to escape the Scottish weather. And that really is the legit reason. I was so young and it was like, what else is out there in my early 20s? But I fast discovered that you could do anything in Dubai. And I launched the Middle East's first personal shopping and styling agency. And that was my first, I guess, foray into public image, personal presentation, first impressions, how you present yourself. And I think coming from the airline industry, a lot of brands wanted to work with me because we had this airline grooming standard. So from a style perspective, I would go in and do a lot of grooming workshops in the corporate capacity. But working with clients then became got promotion. I'm pitching to an investor. I am standing on stage. All of this was all a huge part of their brand image. And after about 15 years, I was like, there's so much more that I can add to
Mm,
someone's knowledge bank. I'd built my own brand. And I think that was a real aha moment. I actually had a call with that client today. And I think we'll all have aha moments. She's still a client of mine. But she came to me and she said, Kelly, you've done a TEDx talk. I've got a TEDx talk. Can you help me with this? And I was like, sure, I'd love to. And then she said, and you've got your own brand website. I want one of those. And I want to do more speaking and I want to get more media. And kind of she really opened my eyes that was potentially other people that wanted help with this visibility piece that wasn't
yeah,
actually a PR company. It's your
yeah.
own brand. And I think I realized that I had that moment way before someone came and asked me, and she was like, how did you do all this? And that was, oh wow, it was this kind of penny drop moment, but it was so much more than that because it allowed me to combine all of the things that I had been doing. I'm a massive investor in personal development. I've done so many courses and I had all this knowledge that was in
Mm,
some ways going to waste just on me. I was like, I
yeah.
need to share it with more people. And that's where we are today with the brand piece.
It's like a kind of inside out thinking, isn't it? It's an inside out approach to your work. And to your point earlier, it's that skills stacking as well. It's kind of okay, I've now learned this, I've now learned this, I've now executed this for myself. How can I make that possible for other people? And I feel like your journey has just been a constant evolution of that,
Yeah.
really, from learning the things that you learn as being a crew at Emirates, and then going, well, other people will want to understand this. How can I put this out there? How can I put what I know out there to help others?
Yeah, and in your own way with your own spin.
Mm,
Like if I even think back to people would not necessarily believe it, but 18, my very first job was as a holiday rep. And I lived overseas and I lived in Cyprus, I lived in Gran Canaria, I lived in Tenerife. And the one skill that that job taught me, apart from dealing with rowdy holidaymakers, was the ability to communicate and public speak. And I got thrown in at the deep end at 18 years old to go, do you know what? You need to go and present at this welcome meeting in Cyprus to 10 people. And I'm like, but I've only lived here for 48 hours. And they're like, read the guidebook and then tell people all about it. And it really
wow.
was one of those kind of, you got to learn. And all those things that I learned from having props with me to telling stories, that started at 18. So I think everyone here has got this, like you say, skill stacking ability that makes your personal brand truly unique, that no one else can ever touch it. Even if you're in the same industry, no one's got the same experiences as you, the same way of execution, and the same delivery style. And I think that's
Yeah.
what's the beauty of personal brand.
Yeah. Where do you see people going wrong with this? Because I think sometimes the challenge for people is to separate when they start a business, their personal brand from their brand, right? Their business brand.
Yeah.
Is that a confusion that you see very often, or what other missteps do you see people making?
Well, let me ask a question here. Who that's watching this live believes they have a personal brand? Just put their hand up on the virtual or say yes in the chat box. Okay. It's a little bit of a trick question because the reality is everyone has a personal brand. But that question, when I ask, usually comes with three answers. So Nicky will know that I did ask this before and I start with everywhere. It was so funny because I did Friday morning, I was at Google HQ and I asked that question, who has a personal brand? And to be fair, I'd say 80% of the room put their hand up, and I was like, great, we're starting off really strong. I then went and did a corporate presentation, and there was 130 people, and one person put their hand up. Like, even that surprised me. So there's three
Yeah.
responses. I've got a personal brand. Two is they do this little funny half dance. And then the third one is like, well, I'm not going to say anything, even if I don't have or do have a personal brand. They're kind of the three responses. But what got me was the mindset of this. It's intentional. We've all got a brand. What the afternoon people weren't thinking about was how intentional they could be with their personal brand
Mm,
versus the morning people at Google HQ were all like, okay, well, what do I need to be doing? I know I've got it. So what should
yeah.
be the next step? So I think that's probably one of the first big mistakes that people make. And then from there, it then goes into lack of strategy. I think we've all
Yeah.
got great ideas, but it's actually how do we put that into a plan? Not
Yeah.
all the opportunities come to us. We have to go out and get them, which results in visibility. My client this morning, this very first one that signed up with me in 2000 and what was it, 17 in branding, she goes through moments where she knows visibility is so good, and then she gets so busy and she stops doing the visibility piece with her brand. And then she goes,
Yeah.
hang on a minute, I've got a much quieter. And she said this morning, my new phrase, Kelly, is, you're going to like this. And I'm like, tell me, tell me. And Dawn said, visibility equals conversion. And I'm like, well done.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
great that
You
we've
got
got
it.
here. Yeah.
Finally, you got there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But she knows that. And I think that's the whole thing of, okay, then we get all of this, but then we keep evolving.
Yeah.
And I think probably the third one that I'm talking more and more about is your personal brand. Oh, there's loads, by the way, but your personal brand isn't necessarily just for now. So that intentional piece of you creating your personal brand is you need to create the brand for the shoes that you want to step into. So
Mm,
for example, if you want to be a speaker, but you're maybe not getting paid speaking events now, or maybe you're not speaking at all at the moment, how do you start positioning that so that people can come and hire you as a
yeah,
speaker, even if it's not
yeah.
paid? And I think that's the piece of brand building that people don't understand is we need to have the strategy to go, well, what are the things you
Mm,
want to achieve in order to start attracting those opportunities?
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So kind of working backwards really from what that big goal is
Yeah,
and putting the steps in place.
yeah. And I do also find, I mean, to be fair, I could do the whole 45 minutes on mistakes, all with lessons. But the other thing is I work a lot with clients in the very beginning, and this sounds so simple, but they really don't have a clear message. So they know what they're doing, but they haven't got the
Mm,
ability to be able to communicate it online, to communicate it to someone else, which means it gets diluted. And then
yeah.
there's just this lack of ability for other people to be able to recommend you. And I always say with brand building is that sure we could do millions of things within, the hats that we've got, but become known for one thing, really go all in on that, and then you can start doing it. And people get really caught up and they're like, I want to be like Mel Robbins, or I want to be like Tony Robbins. And I'm like, what did Mel Robbins start in? What did Tony Robbins started in? And honestly, people really struggle going back to Tony started in hypnotherapy. Like he went all in
Mm,
on that and
yeah,
then started doing other things from that. So I would
yeah.
always say, for me, for 15 years, I went all in on styling. Like
Yeah.
styling's just one part of brand building.
Yeah.
Now I see that. I went all in on styling. Now, for the last 6 years, I've been talking about personal branding, personal branding, personal branding. But what I'm starting to pull out now in that space is storytelling and speaking,
Mm,
because that's the one thing that AI cannot copy you on. Sure, it can
yeah.
help polish you up, but
Yeah.
the whole piece on the storytelling part and you going out and communicating your message, only you can do that. Well, I
Yeah.
haven't seen a robot yet that can do that.
No, exactly. Not yet. Um,
Yeah.
and is that the thing, I suppose, on the flip side of what people get wrong? Is there one thing before we go into your presentation that you see people consistently doing well from getting right? Is it kind of the storytelling thing? Is it that one liner, that message? Like, is there one thing that you think that's the first thing you really need to nail in order to start then building?
Building brand or when you're going in and doing presentations?
I mean, when you're building your brand, is it kind of getting that niche? Is it that one liner? Is it being able to tell the story? Like, what is that one thing that you think people consistently who do well do right?
Yeah, I would say it would be starting with that. And if I'm thinking back to some of my clients, so you're in the industry as well, that your clients get different results because of their execution. It's nothing down to
Yeah,
not what you're telling them, it's their way of executing it. And
yeah.
what I've seen is the ones that execute the fastest and get the best results have got absolute clarity in the beginning of who am I? Because we've worked through that. My values. So, what are your personal brand values? And that then goes into all the content that you share. That goes into your bio. That goes into your website. That goes into the vibe of who you are.
Mm,
And from there, that also gives them some. I'm thinking of one client in particular, and I'll tell you, but they then have the ability to create what I call their own UPBS, which is their own unique personal branded system or solution. And that's what people are buying into. And
yeah,
you can
nice.
create that UPBS that's uniquely yours until you've got clarity on who am I, what am I offering, what are my values, because that's the problem that I'm solving for those clients. And then the rest will follow into it. And what most
Yeah.
people do is they go, Kelly, I need help with social media. And I'm like,
Mm.
we're not even there yet. Like,
Yeah,
let's
we're
park
miles away
that.
from that. Yeah. Yeah, I completely get
Park
that. And I would say like we've been talking about this actually. So clarity is the first module inside the Founder Sanctuary. And so we've been working through that and we've been working through our kind of intentions and our one pages and things. And I would say, Mel, like your one pager that you shared yesterday, that updated version, I mean, I just think you've nailed that because you've been through all of those modules. You've understood that. You've put together your one pager. You have your kind of, I can specifically say I would recommend Mel because she uses the impact system, and this is what the impact system is. Like you've created that one thing that you can be known for, and I think that's super powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, you've got a system there as well. I was sharing with the group on Friday when I went into a little bit more detail that I remember going up. I was invited to sort of pitch for this 2-day speaking event. And I remember when they told me what the pitch was, I'm like, I am not the right person. Like in my head,
Mm,
nothing to do with imposter, but I just don't think my
yeah,
content is what they need. But then
yeah,
when I went through my entire system, here's my brand new formula. These are the 7 things that I cover. Like honestly, they were like, this is perfect. And I nearly did myself out of a job, but because
yeah,
I had clarity on that message and the delivery, the key delivery points,
yeah,
that resulted in, a $5,000-6,000 speaking event. And
yeah,
that's that for me is the additional revenue that your personal brand can
yeah,
bring you tomorrow that I think people really underestimate because your business
yeah.
and your whether it's a coaching service or whether it's a product or a service and you've maybe got other people helping you is one side of that kind of monetization key, but then you've got this other side of you that can go and speak and be paid
Mm.
as a speaker, and even if it's not even being paid to speak, I think is some of the most amazing holidays my husband and I have had because I've used my personal brand. Like our wedding last year, in this, well, both of them to be honest, but the Seychelles was an influencer deal. And
Right.
that was because again I went out to target hotels because I'm like, hang on a minute, I've got a brand, I'm going to be posting about our wedding anyway. If we can save something so we get
Yeah.
weddings, then it would be really cool. And the first hotel I pitched to went, yeah, we're totally up for this. And they gave us 5 nights in a luxury suite with a swimming pool. Like they did everything and they constantly get tagged in posts, and then it
That's
allowed us the
amazing.
freedom to go and do other things.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's the bit that people don't understand with their personal
Yeah, yeah,
brand
yeah. That
is
leverage bit.
the leverage and use your brand to create the life that you want because
Yeah.
that's the vehicle for it. And
Yeah.
that's the bit that I'm most passionate about is
Yeah.
how can you build this voice really, and whether it's to get free stuff that you want, or whether it's to have a voice for a charity. I work a lot with the
Yeah.
Sparkle Foundation in the UAE. Well, it's the Sparkle Foundation is in the UK and in the UAE registered, but it's based in Malawi. And this is the whole thing with your voice. I create content, one, to bring clients in, two, to create things that are of interest, of stuff that I've learned to give back value, and three, to use it as a platform to tell other people that these are other
Mm.
things that you can do. And that's where I feel your personal brand has so much purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. And a
So
lot of capacity, as you say, that isn't typically used. You tend to think of your personal brand as supporting your business, right? And actually, it's also there to support you, and to get you the things that you want. And that, yeah, that leverage aspect is definitely. I know most of you haven't been through the second module yet, but the leverage aspect is definitely a huge part of that. Because as you say, it's the thing that's least explored, generally speaking. It's the thing that like people just they don't quite get to that point. And actually, there's a lot of opportunity there. And Jazz, I think you are brilliant at this. Like you're very good at getting yourself in front of, unusual circumstances and speaking and doing all sorts of amazing things. Like you're really good at it. And I think it's a definite kind of potential paid opportunity for you as well, which I don't think you've quite explored yet. But not far off, I would say. Kelly, I am going to hand over to you now, and you can share your screen and run through your presentation because I think based on what we've kind of been talking about so far, this is going to be brilliant for everybody
yeah.
here who's listening back.
Well, thanks so much for that. And I think just while maybe Jazz is here, and I think that we're a small group, I'm more than happy to answer questions that are going to really impact you. Like I've got a pitch here, I've got 25 slides, 30 slides that I can go through, but I just wanted to touch on something that you mentioned with Jazz to make it personal to you, and we can add on. If anyone's got a question, let me answer those, and then I can come in and share with you some of the slides on what I thought was good content for today. But you might go, do you know what? No, that's not what we want to learn. One of the things I really realized was that there's a real difference between being a speaker, going in and talking about your business, and being a paid speaker. And as a business owner, sometimes it's really hard to differentiate yourself between the two, because so many people go, can you come and speak for free? Oh, but it's a great opportunity for you to pitch to your audience, or it's our potential clients or whatever. And I have done this for years, and there gets to a point where there's a moment that you've got to say no, and then when you start saying no, different opportunities come in. Now, don't get me wrong, do I always charge to speak? No, I've got to really pick my opportunities, and it's very much based on who's the person, if I'm really honest. Do I like them? Do I think that their audience is someone that's going to get value from it and implement it? And then two, is there an opportunity to give back? Like there's so many things that will come into something for free, but there was a huge shift in that mindset from going, hey, I'm promoting my business, to hang on a minute, your corporate organization, something slightly different, but even corporates were like, hey, we can introduce you, they're going to be your clients. And I'm like, no, like one might become a client. I'm not doing it. And you're not sitting in the office on the 43rd floor not getting paid. So why should I? It's your IP, it's your knowledge. It's taken me years to be able to condense what personal branding is, to be able to give you these lessons in 45
Mm.
minutes that took me 11, 15, 20 years to learn. So how to kind of overcome that, and I've got a couple of slides in that, is that's where you really need to, and maybe you have this already, but your personal brand is one thing and your business is another. And on that personal brand, you position yourself as a speaker, not just a business owner. And then that starts positioning you as a speaker versus someone who's going in and doing this as, I'll come in and talk about style, or I'll come and talk about whatever it is. So I think that key piece, and what that allowed me to do, is I sold my styling agency in 2019, and it took me 2 years until I had clarity on exactly what I wanted to do next. Like, what did branding look like with my skill set, rather than just go, hey, I'm going to start another business. But for 2 years I operated under my personal brand, and I still got clients, and I was still able to do things. So that's why that whole brand is you at the top, and then underneath is all the businesses that you have, the different hats that you wear, but they're all under that big umbrella. Does that help? Yeah.
Yeah.
Does
Yeah, I
anyone
think
have any other specific questions? I'm here,
It's
type them
just
into, yeah, go for it, Nikki.
it's just that challenge, Kelly, of going from, so I work in the prison sector, justice sector. There's no money in the prison sector, so I have to do corporate talks to go and speak into the prison sector. I was in Addiewell last Friday talking in Scotland, and they need to hear my voice. They need to hear what we're doing on the outside, because they can't see beyond the fence. But it's getting the corporates that are really interested in social mobility and DEI, but nobody wants to pay for the talk.
Yeah, that's also a little bit of a mindset shift, because I used to have that, and there are people that will pay for it. We just need to be in the groups of the people that will pay for it. And I think that there's also something in, I understand that potentially the demographic and the dynamics of where you are, but there are definitely people that will pay for your talks. We just need to be in those rooms that they're like, are you using LinkedIn as a platform to talk about you speaking?
Yeah. I mean, I've had many a free holiday, so I've travelled 4 times, and some people do pay, but I need to increase that sort of percentage so that more pay rather than less
Yeah.
than half pay.
So my conversation is always first up, what's your budget?
Mm.
And then I would stop the conversation there unless they've got something else. Like I've had to just get clearer with that, or my speaking fees start from X or whatever. And have you got yourself a UPBS? Have you got a unique personal branded system or solution?
Not yet.
Yeah. So I would
I'm just,
work on, what was that?
I said, I've just finished my prison sentence. I just come out of prison myself. So I was off license
Wow.
on the 1st of May. So I'm building it all up.
Well done. Well, I do think that then having that so obviously the skills that you've learned on the other side, there's definitely something in that as well. But then there's so much more within what you can offer before, in between, and after, how you can bring that to corporate and what they can do. But get that UPBS. What I'll do, maybe I've got some examples of clients ones, and I can pull that up and show you that direct slide, just to make it a little bit easier in what I mean, to kind of give you some inspiration. So this is what, so that, okay, this was quite an interesting stat, because I think most of you are in the UK. Stephen Bartlett shared this. Can you see my screen? Yeah.
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 70% of new business leads came through people who'd watched them speak on stage or watch videos online. Like, I find this stat really fascinating, but I find the next one even more fascinating, which is 70% of the revenue that had reached his bank account had originated from some kind of personal brand initiative. So just to emphasize even more on the speaking side, that it really does have an impact. Then you've got your free and paid. And to be honest, it's the corporate that where they do pay more. This Najahi event, that one I did speak for free, but I was able to upsell. And at the upsell, because this is interesting, sometimes if you speak for free at an event, you can actually make more money. So at Najahi, they took, I want to say 40% of my sales, but I was allowed to sell. And I think on that day, profit, I maybe made, I want to say something like 17,000 US, which is more than my 2 hour speaking rate. So it made sense for me to speak for free in that situation versus being paid for a 2 hour keynote, which would be what, 3,500, 4,000 US. So it gives you the concept of where and how. But this is what I meant with a UPBS. Which Nikki saw on Friday, like systems, they just make life simple, methodology, framework. It gives the event organizers and corporate companies something that's really tangible so that they can buy into you. And that's what I think will make you different, and where corporates will go, yes, this is what makes the difference. So this is my formula. It's evolved over it's evolved over time, but it's 7 key steps. It became the foundation of my book. It's a foundation of my course. It's a lot of my content. All comes round the brand new formula. This was another client of mine. She was all about
Kelly,
creating
I can't, can anyone see what Kelly's, I can see Stephen Bartlett
Can just
still.
see
Can you?
Stephen Bartlett. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
Maybe
Right, that-
reshare.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I still see Stephen.
Oh,
I like
geez. Okay.
Stephen, but there we go. That's it.
Yeah, when I went. Oh, it's
That's it.
interesting. When I go to your screen sharing is paused. That's
I can
never
see it
happened.
now.
No, but when I
Try
change it,
changing
yeah.
slides. Yeah, it's just the brand new formula.
And I've changed slides. Can you see the next one? Yeah.
No.
It's something happens when I go to share.
What about if you don't press play? I had this with a webinar 2 weeks ago, and the person realized that when they press play, whereas like I can see your screen at the moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So maybe
See
and
that.
it's
if you just do it like that.
green, and it's I don't know if it's because I'm co-host or something. Anyway, okay. So that was what is a UPBS, was just kind of making
Yeah.
like systems and simple. This was my brand new formula. So this is what's then become the foundation to book and content that goes out. This was a client of mine that used who was all about creating an abundant life, and through that, like the first time she implemented it, she closed clients. She hadn't closed any clients, and she closed 2 in a week. It's just like, Kelly, I've just made $2,000. Just that whole thing of, it makes selling easy, it makes content easy, it makes delivery much easier. Magda's the one in particular that I know, when you said to me, what is it that people execute really, really well when they get really clear on her message? We created together, obviously she's gone on and implemented it, the mental agility framework. She's a former nurse, and she now goes into corporate, and it's all about from hero to human and taking this mental agility leadership framework into organizations, and she's doing amazing with it. Who else have we got? Agnes, she's all about mindset, movements, and macros. Hers is the 3M methodology. So in any industry, you can create your own system or methodology in that space. So that's kind of speaking and how you can kind of monetize that aspect of your brand. Nikki, I think you had a question.
Yeah, I mean, it is touching on things you've already said, but I am struggling at the moment with differentiating myself from my business, so working on my personal brand, versus then also, you know, creating a brand for my company. And I think with like the US,
UPS, unique
yeah,
personal brand
UPS, there we go. If I come up with that, I don't want it to then be going like, oh, this is what I do, and it's nothing to do with my team. And I've been putting a lot more time and effort into my personal brand on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I have somebody, one of my team members, her background was marketing, and she asked to move back into a marketing role. So she's been doing stuff for the company page. I'm just starting to wonder whether the company page is a bit useless. And it's how I integrate the two, because I run a recruitment company, but I'm also launching a coaching service. So the coaching service is more about me, but then obviously the company, yeah, it's like, and I know, I think other people have had issues as well with like, do you promote your brand and you and working out that differentiation?
I think the piece to remember is that people buy from people that they know,
Mhm.
like, and trust. And I think in this environment now, people really want to know the who's behind the brand. You know, they don't necessarily want the company, they want the personal piece. And I think we can't lose touch of that. If we look at the people that have built big brands, like, let's take Stephen Bartlett. Like, I couldn't tell you three of the companies that he's got. Maybe Flight something. I don't know the rest of them, but I know him. So I see
Yeah.
any of the posts that he's doing. I'm not going to go and follow his other ones. It's not of interest to me. So that's where you've got to think, you know, who are you? Your business and your expertise is one of those things, but there's lots of other things that are maybe not in your book, in your business brand, that you can also talk about, share, add, but people will always want to deal with not necessarily even you, even if you position you and you've got your team,
Mhm.
having the you as the front piece of it is always going to make more sense. And you can still sell your business even if you build it, it's you at the front.
Mhm.
So I
I
think,
think,
go
sorry.
on you. No, on you go.
I'm just basically trying to decide, and I keep going back and forth on it, on whether it's just a bit redundant having her managing the LinkedIn company page.
I don't think
Because
it's a priority.
no,
I don't
that's
think
what
it's,
I
I
think
think
as
it's
well.
relevant. I think if she could manage yours and you get consistency out, like, here's the thing with LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn has got 1 billion users.
Mhm.
There is only 2% that are actually active on LinkedIn, right? So it's a huge space to build your brand and become visible. And I can't tell you the amount of times that people come up to me and say, oh my God, you're doing so amazing. I saw this on LinkedIn. Why? Because they just see me posting stuff. There's this assumption that they see you're doing well. And that's what you need to create, is that momentum, not necessarily the business. Would I see it? Maybe one or two a post, but if they
Yeah.
see what you're up to, and the stats on when I take in LinkedIn in particular, when I will grow 700 followers in a week or 500 followers in a week on LinkedIn, it's usually because I've got a high performing personal post. And when I say personal post, I've always connected it back to work, but it's a
Yeah.
picture that is on my page and not on work.
Yeah.
So I would have, so just to kind of go back on that stat and finish it up. So 2% are active. In order to become more than that 2%, all you need to be doing
Mhm.
is posting twice a week. That's it.
Mhm.
Consistently. So if you can be posting twice a week or more, so I'm 5 times a day, like there's people posting 10 times a week. I'm posting once a day. So 5 times a week, sorry. And that's now driving. I mean, I'll happily go in and show you the real-time stats on when something is performs well, then you just get more visibility. And the key piece with LinkedIn is not necessarily the sure, the followers is a great metric to track, but it's actually your profile visits. How many people have visited your profile?
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I saw
I
that when
didn't
I
know
was
about the profile visits.
researching, and which you can go in and track, by the way.
Yeah.
LinkedIn does give you that monthly edits, but this is one of the things. So this might be an idea. This is one of the things that my team's doing. Sorry if I'm staring at the screen. I'm trying to pull up a very raw Google Doc that I go through every single week with my team. If you find this helpful, they pull out all the stats for me and tell me what's doing really well and what isn't. So this was at the 1st of January, I was sitting at 12,000 and 12,900. And we are now coming up for nearly 16,500.
Wow, that's since the start of the year.
Yeah, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but what we've done, and it's so interesting, I'll show you the stats. And the weeks where I don't schedule my content because I don't know, I've got too busy or something's happened, the algorithm plummets because people don't see it. So if we have a little look here, so consistently when I was like, right, okay, 5 times a week, the reason they say 48 is because she couldn't track. So it hasn't 40 people unfollowed me. It was just we needed to get the numbers to match. So if we look at the follows here, 110, 154, 134, it's going up, 200, 365. I went off radar for these 2 weeks, even though I scheduled content. I was back home in the UK and I didn't do any engagement, and then it dropped. And then I started to pick it back up again. And then I got a PR piece that was it the PR piece or the Dubai piece? No, it was I did a piece about Dubai where I said I'd reached 22 years in Dubai. Anything that's Dubai based does really well. And in 1 week I picked up 700. And then it started, and then you can see, so these then go into see profile views. So there I was doing profile views 130, 200, 300. That was when I dropped off. And then I picked it back up again. And then that was this kind of fall over from the viral post that went 95,000 impressions. That was probably one of my best performing posts. And then I started to see what actually would stick. And then this was last week. I did 5 speaking events and I picked up another 400 followers in a week.
Wow.
And that resulted in the second highest. So that was the viral post. This was the visibility speaking piece, was 1,000 profile visits. Now, the other thing that I would put in about LinkedIn, if you're not doing this already, is newsletter. So in December, and in December only, I started doing a LinkedIn newsletter. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to test it out. By January the 1st, I had 2,100 subscribers. We're nearly at 4,000 subscribers. Now, my own database is only about 4,000, and that's taken bloody years. And this has done 6 months. So from a visibility perspective, landing in there, I'd look at working on your newsletter and getting that out.
Did you say you're doing weekly or monthly?
I've gone to weekly. This May we went to weekly, but again, start small. So we were doing monthly first, but now I started looking at other people, and we really wanted to go a bit harder on this, and that was what we signed up last week, 123 people. I'm not getting 123 people signing up to my mailing list. I'm maybe coming in a week at maybe 30, 40, if I'm lucky. Naturally, we're talking organic, unless I do a paid ad or something. Does that help? Does that confirm
Yeah,
maybe some of the things you need to be doing on that?
it does. Yeah, but it just means I need to have a really tough conversation with my
But,
marketing girl.
but can she not do your own one? Or will you do that yourself?
She could, but I'm posting at the moment about 3 times a week and I'm really enjoying it.
See, I enjoy
So
it as well, and it's the
I
one.
enjoy it. I don't really want to give it away because now
Yep.
that I'm posting more about the coaching side of things and I'm posting about like mental health and things like that, I'm really passionate about it. So I
Yeah.
could give it to her to handle. But my engagement, I did a class with Helen and a branding thing. And they said, like, share something personal. And I did a post with a picture of me, and it's got like the most likes and engagement that I've ever had. So that's kind of
Yay.
spurred me
You
on.
need
And
to
then after
do.
your talk as well, I was like, right, big up my brand, my personal brand.
And that's where the storytelling piece, that's where storytelling comes into it. There's too many generic people copying and copying and cutting from ChatGPT and putting a piece of content out there. So get that to fine tune it, but make sure that your story, or a story of a message is in there. So it makes things a little bit easier for people to digest and makes you stand out. Melissa had a wee message, and I'll just kind of reiterate a little bit more. If I pull up my LinkedIn page here, excuse all my tabs open. So there is analytics, an analytics section. So what the team do is each week, you also get an email, by the way, which tells you what your top performing post is, but I really like having it on that snapshot where I can see. So I'm up in the last 7 days. Well, it's nice to see they're all up at the moment. But you can go into
Wow.
past you can go into, what was that, the past 7 days? I think you can, here we go. You can go into the past 365 days. I think someone said 90 days. Jazz also said he's getting a lot of interest. That was the viral post at the end of March. And I think this was the one the other day. Yeah. I'll show you some of the pieces that have done really well. So up
Could you
180.
perhaps share more about coming up with the US? I could never remember what it stands for, but coming up with your
Remember
system.
it? Yeah, so remember it as your unique, because you are unique, personal brand, system or solution, your own UPBS. Some people will call it a methodology. For some people, it'll be a framework. For some people, it'll be it's going to be something that's catchy. So ours has been the brand you formula, because it was all about branding you. And I think why formula kind of worked in that space. So I can come back there. What I'll touch on is, okay, these are some of the best performing posts here, but they're all story led. So this was the one that went 22 next month marks 22 years in Dubai. And there's so many things that I miss about Dubai. And it was totally genuine. Like, I really do miss loads of things about Dubai, but also it's very exciting. And then I got people to write in the comment. Like, I started replying to it was 150 comments. It was a lot of people to kind of go back to. But people really wanted to they really wanted to tell me that what they're missing. It was really nice. So what kind of conversations can you get that tell a story that generate interest that's a little bit personal? Like, this one was one that did really well. My dad was out, and I said, I saw the Dubai through the eyes of the tourist. And there was actually a story. My dad's forgot his swimming shorts at this fancy beach club that we went to, and he wouldn't pay the price, he's Scottish, of the beach shorts in the beach club. So we had to go and get the Kareem box to come and deliver a pair of my husband's. Anyway, this was all in this story. And it was just a nice Dubai experience about branding, like what makes an aha moment in branding. So how can you bring these things back that you can generate comments that will engage conversation, and then people will see them? So some ideas, you can go on and have a little look. So the UPBS has really got to be, first of all, what problem are you solving? Whose problem are you solving, and what problem are you solving? And then what are all, like, mind map it, put in all the, I'm solving this problem, and these are all the things that I start to do to solve that problem, until you can start to see a system. It's something that we do with clients a lot. It's easy for me because I'm on the outside of the label, the jar. I can see it all versus you're inside, and you're too in on it. So having someone to have that perspective where you can download, map it all out and go, well, that sounds like something, that goes into something else, that works there, and that works there, and you start to build it. I think you have to test it. Does that help?
Yes, very much. Thank you.
Good. Well, I look forward to seeing it. What advice do you have for people who are more introverted? I really like this question because I think people believe that because they're introverted, they maybe don't have a personal brand. And I believe that you just have a different way to communicate your personal brand. So it may be less about videos and doing talks, which is something that you could build up to. It could be that you do pre-recorded videos in the comfort of your own home, but I would go into long form writing. I would only assume that from the introverted perspective, maybe that writing's a better quality. For me, writing is not. I've got 2 books and like really, I would far rather stand and talk than I would write more things. However, it's not something I'm good at, whereas I do tend to find those that like talking and sharing in that space are way better writers. So maybe that's another way to communicate.
Thank you, that's helpful.
You're welcome. Anyone else got any other questions that I can help and make it personal to you on what you can do to execute your personal brand right now, or make it more intentional, whether you want to get remarried in the Seychelles or
Yeah. I
whatever.
was quite interested in the intentional, like how to create that strategy with intention, because I think like actual steps to kind of follow and to kind of build that strategy. Because I I've like really increased my following over the last 8 months or so, and I was doing loads of stuff on LinkedIn, and I had a VA at the time, whereas now I don't. And now I've found that like my postings are less frequent.
Yeah.
I could probably manage 2 a week, but it's also, like you say, with intention, because otherwise I just feel like I'm thinking up stuff to talk about, and it's not necessarily the best
Yeah, so
type
there's
of
a few
content
things
that
in
I can
that.
put out.
Are you not time blocking and putting your content in a schedule? I would
Yeah.
schedule your LinkedIn. Like LinkedIn doesn't need to be real time, like Instagram or Instagram stories. So honestly, time block and get in that creative space and put a minimum of 2 posts on schedule. Then if something comes up that it's real time, you can add that in real time. Hey, I spoke at this event yesterday or whatever it was. But that was the problem when you saw the dip on my stats, was because I didn't schedule the content because I was away and I should have just sat down and done it, but I didn't. Versus the times that I'm so consistent, 5 times a week, there's always a post. And it's so funny because there'll be times when I'm like, something's happened, like my phone goes off a lot, as in it's always on silent, but I'll look and I'll be like, why have I got so many messages? Oh, a post has gone viral. And it's because I've scheduled it, so I don't know it's gone out. So honestly, I would say you need for if you've not got a VA, you need to schedule that content. The intentional strategy piece is honestly based on what your goals are. And as much as you might all be working on your personal brand, you'll all have different purposes on why you're working on your personal brand. For me, over the last 12 months, my goal is to attract more speaking opportunities. And through that, all of my PR, all of my content has got something around speaking, because that's what I want to go forward being known as. Instead of it accounting for 10% of my revenue, I want it to account for 50% of my revenue, because it's what I love doing. And the rest, so for me, that's intentional. For another client, it might be, I'm building my personal brand to get X, or I'm building my personal brand because I want to sell the business, so I need an investor, or I want to get different types of clients. So Nikki's going to have to re-educate her market a little bit, that she's not just someone who's in recruitment, she's someone that has got this coaching service and you can actually hire her. So a huge part of her brand strategy is going to need to be re-educating her client, her audience, on what it is that she does and who it is that she can help, which is why the UPBS, for example, will help with that. So I think that I would love to say do X, then Y, then Z, then go back to A. But like 2 years ago, a huge piece for me was I needed to build my online social following, because I knew that I wanted to get the weddings. I knew that I wanted to build this. I knew I needed to have a good account for someone to look at to say, sure, we'll give you a castle in Scotland, or sure, we'll do a 5-night stay in the Seychelles, or whatever it is, half price wedding dress, these kind of things. So at various times it will evolve with you. And you've got to think, well, what am I focusing on right now? Some clients go, do you know what? I'm going all in on podcasts. long form content. I want to be on so many people's podcasts because they'll give me the content, and it's the positioning piece. So I think it's getting clear on why do you want to build this brand? We all know, okay, here it's important, but what's the purpose? 10 years ago, I wanted to do a TEDx talk. That was the one thing I wanted to do. So anything that I did personal brand related was to build my visibility and credibility, that when someone said, can you do a TEDx talk, that I would be the natural yes for them. So I think about it that way rather than what steps do I need to apply right now.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Just having like those specific goals and then do all your content based on that. And then when you've achieved that, what's the next one? And it can
Yeah.
be small, it could be big or what have you. But yeah, that's really helpful. Even, but you don't need the steps then, if you know what I mean. You just know that you
Yeah.
need to post for this purpose. And I think, yeah, it's not something I've done yet. I just kind of post what I think is interesting.
And that's when it goes,
Um,
when do you take your personal brand to being intentional? And that's when you're being intentional, because this is my goal. I'm sure you've all at some point read the Mel Robbins Let Them book, and she talks a lot about she wanted to build up her speaking career, and her friend was like, well, why are you not talking about it? And it really resonated with, just because I can go and speak, and I think people know that I can go and speak in organizations. Last week I had a conversation with someone, and she said to me, so do you go into organizations? I'm like, I'm posting every week on LinkedIn. You found me on LinkedIn that I'm a speaker, but I think it's enough, but people don't see it as enough. So I would say that if that's one of the like, if that's my goal, I maybe need to increase, not just once a week. Hey, I spoke at Google HQ. Hey, I spoke at this oil and gas industry. I need to do that twice a week. If I think it's enough, but maybe it's not. Maybe you need more clients. Are you actually given a call to action to say, hey, book a call with me? How easy is it for someone to come and book a call with you? Like those kind of things. And how are you driving them towards that?
I just have one follow-up question, if that's okay.
Go for it.
And it's kind of linked to Twani's introvert comment, because I'm always hearing, videos, you need to be speaking, people need to see you, you need to do videos, you need to do speaking gigs, so that you can get in front of audiences. And that's how people say that that's where you're going to get your clients, that's how you're going to build up your personal brand. And if you're not someone that feels comfortable in doing those, like, do you think it's something that you need to just get comfortable with doing in order to kind of really start advancing, being a speaker?
What do you think?
Probably.
I could go, sure, sharing on LinkedIn and doing the longer form, longer written form content is great. But the reality is, how many people do you want to impact? I've got a really big goal. Okay, I really want to impact as many people as possible. I'm not going to do that in the written form. One to many is the fastest way to grow your visibility, because you leave people with a feeling. That feeling is inspired. That feeling is that they can take on the world. That feeling is that you leave people with that feeling to go and action. So when I said to Helen earlier on, like that first time that I had to go and speak in front of those 12 holidaymakers in Cyprus, that I'd only been on the island for 48 hours, was very much, I have no idea what I'm doing. And it's just that practice, that skill stacking thing. But if you were to say if there was anything that I should go all into, it's got to be speaking. Because then that will open up podcasting opportunities. Then that opens up panel discussions. And I think for the majority of the people that I end up meeting, most people want to help someone. They want to inspire, they want to serve, they want to educate, they want to share their story so that other people don't have to go through it and make the same mistakes that they do. And I would even come back and say that you're doing a disservice if then you're not getting uncomfortable to practice that skill in order to help others to not go through what you've gone through. In a nutshell.
Thank you.
Does that help?
Yeah, I just I've had a couple of opportunities come my way, and there's one guy I know who's always trying to get me to do speaking gigs, and he's asked me to do that, the rec fair, the rec. I work in recruitment as well, and it's the agency recruitment events, and there's hundreds and thousands of, like, not hundreds of thousands of people that will go to these events. And you know, he's always like, we've got to get you out there, got to get you on stage. And I always avoid his emails because I'm like so nervous about actually having to get on a stage and talk, because my anxiety is just insane, that even thinking about it now just makes me like shake inside.
Yeah, but I have to say, like, again, speaking from clients, so I had one client that was in corporate, came to me last year, and she just started with my 6 sessions that we did, and she was like, I'm scared of public speaking. I just want to be a better communicator. I just want to be able to communicate to my team. We've now taken her to the brand new speaker package. She's now on stages. She does panels. She's hired me in to speak to her team. This woman's confidence, from being where exactly in the situation that you said, anxiety, I can't help it, my face goes red, I'm shaking, all of these things, to now, when it's not about you. So you're in your headspace. How is this making me feel? How is this making me feel? But what if you had knowledge to help someone to get into a job? And because you've not gone and stood on that stage and helped them, you could have helped one person. And then when you stop thinking about a big stage, it's like, let me just help one person that's listening. It takes the heat off a little bit. And Tony's right, start on smaller stages. But if someone's asking you and you've got that door open, I'd be sending them a message this afternoon to say, when can I speak on the next stage?
Thank you.
And
it's possible. I know it's possible. It's just like you say, I'm in my own head about it, and I'm thinking about that, and actually just flipping that thought process and the perception is I think would be a really helpful strategy. So thank you.
exciting
Kelly,
stuff.
I'm going to have to wrap this up now because I've actually got to jump onto another call. But just a huge thank you from me and from all of us. I think we've all learned a lot from this session, and just for being so open and transparent, I think, about your journey, like sharing your stats, helping everyone to understand that, you know, it's not always kind of amazing and up here just because you're posting every day or whatever. Like, you also have to understand what's working for people and get through those points where, you know, you don't have the time and have a strategy for that, where things have dipped a little bit. Okay, what's working? How can I reframe things? When you're feeling nervous, you know, there are ways of getting around these things. And I think you shared some brilliant just kind of mindset approaches to help people move forward. So thank you from me, from all of us.
Welcome.
I'm
Nice
gonna
to
have
meet
wrap
you all.
this now.
Come
Where
and say
can
hi
people
on
find you, Kelly,
LinkedIn.
just before you go? LinkedIn, I guess.
Yeah, come and say hi on LinkedIn.
Perfect. All right, we will definitely do that.
Sounds good.
And any other questions for Kelly, you know where she is. And yeah, just thank you so much for the time. We'll be putting this session up inside the sanctuary by the end of today. And Kelly, I'll share the link with you as well in case you want to take any bits out of it.
Brilliant. Nice to see you
Take
all.
care,
Have a great
everyone.
one. Be
See you soon.
Thanks,
inspired.
Kelly.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.